This town's honor is built on the blood of a woman strung up. It ain't worth a damn penny." The air froze. 5 hands reached for their holsters. Ephraim didn't move. "Go ahead," he said quietly. "But remember, out here, spilled blood carries a smell that sticks to your name." One younger rider hesitated, seeing no fear in the old man's eyes, only tired resolve. The leader spat into the dust. "We'll be back," he growled. "And when we are, you'll hang beside that savage girl." They rode off, dust and hate trailing behind them. Ephraim watched until they vanished, his hand shaking slightly, then forming a fist. Behind him, Mina stood in the doorway. "You shouldn't have provoked them," she said. "I didn't provoke," Ephraim answered, eyes lost on the horizon. "I just told the truth." That night, the storm came. Wind lashed the cabin walls, rain pounding the roof like fists. Inside, only a flickering oil lamp lit the room. Mina sat wrapped in a blanket, her copper-toned skin glowing in the dim light. The wound on her shoulder was healing, but her eyes stayed sharp, alive. Ephraim poured cold coffee into 2 tin cups. "What will you do when you recover?" "I'll take back my name," she said, "and make sure this land remembers it." She told him of a ledger locked inside the county courthouse, a record of every lie Dalton and his sons had written into history. Stolen land, forged deeds, native homes seized and sold. If they could copy it and send proof to Denver, the truth would reach where bullets could not. Ephraim lit a cigarette. Smoke coiled silver in the lamp's glow. "That sounds like war." "No," she said. "A just truth. But truth dies if no one carries it." He nodded. He understood. By dawn, their plan was set. Mina would sneak into the courthouse through the broken back window. Ephraim would wait outside, posing as a delivery man. They'd use carbon paper to copy the ledger, then send it by telegraph to Denver before Dalton could stop them. Ephraim cleaned his old Colt. Mina asked softly, "Do you think God will forgive us?" He gave a bitter smile. "Well, I think God left the West a long time ago. It's just us now." She nodded, tightening her grip on the ink pen. "Sometimes," Ephraim said, "meet a gun. It just needs someone brave enough to write what no one wants to read." Rain poured hard that night as they crept through the cemetery behind the church. Ephraim carried a crate. Mina moved barefoot beside him, silent as breath. The records building loomed ahead, stone walls, iron doors, and one cracked window. Ephraim boosted her. She slipped through the gap and landed quietly inside. Rows of ledgers stood like tombstones. Her fingers traced the spines until she found it. Land Register 1879-1887. Dalton's red stamp bled across the cover. She flipped it open. Her family's name was there, blotted out in ink. Mina bit her lip and began copying line by line, the rain whispering against the glass. Then, footsteps, a voice. "Who's there?" Outside, Ephraim heard it too. He stepped into the street, dropped his crate and shouted, "E-delivery for the courthouse." "Damn fools, open the door." The guards rushed toward him. He fired a single shot into the sky. Inside, Mina grabbed the copied pages, but a guard appeared in the doorway, pistol raised. She threw the oil lamp. Fire exploded. Flames tore through wood and paper. She dove through the window, hit the mud, clutching the pages to her chest. Ephraim pulled her up. Together, they ran through the rain as the courthouse burned behind them. "A maybe," Ephraim said, breathing hard. "We gotta burn the lies before justice can grow back from the ash." Behind them, torches flared. Dalton's riders chasing through the storm. "They're following the scent of gunpowder," Ephraim muttered. "And then let's give them something to smell," Mina replied. Lightning flashed. Bullets screamed through the dark. Mina picked up Ephraim's fallen revolver, her hands trembling. But her aim was steady. She fired once. A horse buckled. The second rider fell under Ephraim's shot. They ran again through mud and thunder toward a faint light, the telegraph shack. They burst inside. The old telegraph operator jumped. Ephraim slammed his Colt on the table. "Listen, friend," he said. "We need to send a wire to Denver. Now." The man saw their faces, bloodied, desperate, and nodded. Mina spread the damp copies on the desk, reading each line aloud while the operator tapped the keys. Each click-click echoed like a heartbeat through the storm. Outside, hooves thundered again. Ephraim cocked his gun. "It keeps sending till they hear it." Lightning flashed across his weathered face, soaked cold, but lit by something holier than faith. When the final signal left the wire, Mina whispered, "And now justice has a way." Dawn came slow and gray. Smoke rose from the half-burned courthouse. Ephraim sat on the porch of the telegraph shack, revolver still in hand. Mina sat beside him, shirt torn, blood drying on her skin. Neither spoke. Then the sound of hooves came, not Dalton's riders this time, but soldiers. A company of cavalry rode into Red Mesa, cloak-soaked, insignia shining. The officer at the front dismounted. Which one of you is Ephraim Cole? I am. A telegram came in your name. Are the accusations against Sheriff Dalton true? Before Ephraim could answer, a roar echoed from the street. Dalton himself, red-faced, sweating, axe in hand. Lies, he screamed. They burn the records. That girl's nothing but savage filth. Why? Mina stepped forward, her long black hair whipping in the wind. She raised the soaked papers. Here's your signature, Dalton. Here's my family's land. And here's proof of every sin you buried. The officer looked at the pages, then back at Dalton. Arrest him? Arrest. Dalton reached for his gun, but Ephraim's Colt barked once. The sheriff dropped, his sons thrown to the mud as cuffs clamped on their wrists. Doors opened. Townsfolk stepped out, pale faces watching. For the first time, someone bowed their head to Mina. A saloon keeper handed her a cloth. You don't have to hide anymore, child. Ephraim smiled faintly. He returned it, voice low. Today we saw the rarest thing in the West. What's that? A justice carried by the truth. 3 days later, the rain was gone. On the southern field, 2 blackened wooden stakes stood where Mina had once hung. Ephraim rode up, reins in hand. Mina stood before the stakes, holding a telegram from Denver. A case of Dalton closed. Property of the Sun family restored. Respect to those who spoke the truth. She smiled softly. Lee. They gave the land back, but my father's still gone. Ephraim bowed his head. Then let him rest. He raised a daughter who stood her ground. She picked up a handful of ash, letting it drift through her fingers. I used to think justice had to come from a gun. Ephraim looked at her and smiled faintly. Sometimes paper and ash outlast bullets. They stood in silence as sunlight spilled across the field. Will you stay? He asked. I'll rebuild my father's store, and when native children are beaten or chased away, they'll have a place to go. He nodded, turning his horse. That's enough. Sometimes God sends someone just when you've stopped believing. As Ephraim rode off, Mina watched him fade into the hills. The wind swept through the field, lifting ash into the golden sky. I was hung between heaven and earth to die, she whispered. But this land lowered me back down to live again. She walked toward the waking town, roof shining with dew. Behind her, the 2 old stakes collapsed in silence. They say justice in the West is the sound of a gunshot in the night. But sometimes, justice is just the clicking of a telegraph key in the rain, carrying the truth of a girl and the redemption of a man who'd once failed to save his sister. My friend Ephraim was no hero. He was just an old man who still believed kindness shouldn't die with time. And Mina's son? She didn't want revenge. She only wanted truth, to be called by its name. Among ashes and rain, they proved that bravery isn't about pulling a trigger. It's about holding on to humanity in a place that's forgotten it. Thank you, my friends of Wild West Storytelling. Plus storytelling. If this tale stirred your heart, hit that subscribe button and ride back with me next time. Because out here in the West, every story begins with dust and ends with something worth remembering.